Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 14th episode of One Step at a Time with Charlie Chen. And this time I'm be talking about the Third Amendment and the 996 work culture. Now, before I begin, I'm really proud of myself to make this video earlier in the week, but as much as I like to attribute it to me hustling, it's not exactly it. It's more like the ideas happen to make sense, like right this moment, and I feel like I have to get the message out. So it's either the muse is talking to me or my mental episode is worse than usual today. So anyway, so the Third Amendment and the 996 work culture. So I spoke about the Third Amendment before, so here's a quick recap. The third, and also to see if people can count to three, right? The First Amendment, freedom of speech. Second Amendment, right to possess firearms for whatever purposes. But the Third Amendment is talking about no housing or no quartering of soldiers during peacetime, right? And only exception can be made during wartime. And what I talked about the Third Amendment was that, well, I think the Third Amendment needs an update because it's been twisted in many ways, right? The spirit of it is that no government snooping on you at your own place, especially during peacetime, right? But if you take a step back and look at the whole context of it and you look at it via today's world, well, what if it's no longer a soldier, it's a computer spy that listens in on you on your computer, on your phones, or in your apps, right? So it's no longer a soldier, it's a robot spy. And then on top of that, the robot spy is no longer employed by the government, but it's ran by all these tech companies, right? So is it still a soldier if it is sort of like a privateer or something? Like a hired gun, it's a mercenary. So it's not a soldier, it's a mercenary, and it's robot, and it snoops on you. And then these companies sells it back to the government at government's request, right? Well, so in that case, is this still a soldier? Even though technically achieves the same thing. And then, of course, no housing of soldiers during peace times, or exceptions are made during war times. Well, what if we're just caught in war, in these forever wars or new random wars are created to justify expansion of control, and then just over and over again? Well, if we're in wars all the time, is the justification of snooping on the average citizen justified, right? And on top of that, if it is done via mass, as in mass surveillance, you're no longer a victim, you're just a statistic. So there's all these different layers to this Third Amendment that, frankly, I wish more people would talk about it. So what we established just now is that the Third Amendment is sort of twisted because they walk around it with the assistance of technology, as well as twisting the definition of it. So on one hand, you have technology changing the nature of things, and you also have manipulation. So it's like when people follow the letter of the law, but instead of the spirit of the law, same thing. It's like that. So we have that, which brings us to the next point. So if you have been paying attention on the internet lately, you have the whole MLK Sora situation. So people have been making funny but racist, funny but racist videos regarding Martin Luther King, right? One of which that have left so it's now a core memory It shows MLK grabbing a bag of groceries, and he goes, "I have a dream that one day these shall be free," or something like that. And then he will say, "That day is today." Oh, no. He goes, "I have a dream that one day these will be free of charge." That day is today, right? So that's a funny joke. But but regardless, the MLK family reached out to Sora and said, "Hey, you can't. We don't endorse. We want to opt out, pretty much." And Sora honored their request. Now that always rubbed me wrong a little bit because now it's not because I don't think it's messed up that people are making funny videos of MLK, but when it comes to public figures as well as their legacy, to say that you can't joke about it, because I see it happen over and over again. It will first start with saying you have to protect MLK, and then eventually it will expand to other people that are somewhat also relevant or should be revered, and then eventually powers that be overtakes it, and then will just say, "Hey, we said we don't talk shit about revered people, so so now you can't talk badly about government, right?" So, but then I thought about it some more, but this is Sora doing it. It's not the government doing it, right? So technically, Sora has the right to do so because it's a business decision, right? So, but it rubs me the wrong way. And if you and just like the Third Amendment, how they circumvent the whole soldier thing with what's it called, a robot spy that's employed by a company, they're circumventing free speech by saying this is a business decision. And in a way, it's really bad because it feels like I'm defending bad practices, right? But but the thing is, they're using a bad practice as an excuse to implement worse things, and I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me. I don't want it for America, right? And yet it is how they work. And because because if we allow companies to moderate, so it's interesting, isn't it? Because they have this thing where they say that companies are not responsible for the speech of people on their platform because it's essentially a public square. You have that going on, and yet the companies are controlling the speech by disabling the certain topics and things like that. So are we free or are we not really free, right? So it's almost like it's only free speech only applies if it is only beneficial to the company or the government or whatever, but it's disabled once people find out there are inconsistencies, right? And because the thing is, if we disable Sora from making funny MLK videos, as bad as they are, you are also inching closer to a point where South Park can no longer make fun of Trump because it's it is it's funny, but it's done in a negative way, right? So because do public figures have consent or control over their likeness, right? That a line that's easily crossed from point A to point B, and it bugs me because the whole country's advertisement for the world is that this is a place where you can be free and you can talk about anything you want. And if you can't be yourself anywhere else, you can be yourself here. And yet, once you come to this country, what's happening, right? But anyway, the Third Amendment the MLK Sora and Trump South Park situation, using technology to circumvent laws and redefining it, either as well, it's technically not soldiers because it's robot, and it's mercenaries and not soldiers because it's by a company. And in Trump and the MLK situation, it's that, well, it's not violating free speech because it's a business decision. Well, but that's the thing, right? How are you connecting to lots of people, right? You might be popular with your local group, but I'm talking about the real platforms, the kind that sort of toppled the traditional media, the things like YouTube or the things like Instagram or what was it? I don't use it. TikTok, right? So yeah, something to think about. Now, of course, which brings me to the next point is the 996 work culture. But before I begin, I need to review a concept with you. And this is brought up by GCP Gray. It's called Rules for Rulers. But the crux of the whole thing is that government doesn't create value, it redistributes value. So what that means pretty much is like you think about why government doesn't give resources to make people's lives better, right? Well, it's because, well, especially in dictatorships, it's because the person's political opponent can say, hey, this money is being wasted on the peasants. I'll promise this money to the rest of you, right? And then, of course, the peasants are left to rot and die on the side of the street, and then everybody's sitting pretty on the throne where the resources are distributed among the powerful, and but that's never enough, is it? So eventually they have to eliminate different key holders within the structure so there are less people for the same amount of resources, so that it seems like they're growing, but they're really just cannibalizing each other so it can go become taller, right? Well, and now the reason why democracies supposedly have better lives, well, for its citizens compared to dictatorships, is because democracies, well, first of all, the value generation doesn't come from the ground like most dictatorships, such as like oil, diamonds, or something like that. But for democracies, it would be like the value generation comes from the people. Like we're great with service, people are knowledgeable, they're smart, and things like that. And so you want to benefit the people because that's where your money comes from. And then instead of looking at them as individual key holders, you look at them as group, like tech workers, the elderly, unions, and things like that, right? So, and then you reward them as a group. And now, of course, in a way, this country is in trouble in the sense that, first of all, they're making people dumber, whether it's lack of education, lack of parenting, or maybe it's the food that we eat that's poisoning our brain. Or I personally believe, I think a lot of people came through COVID-19 with brain damage, right? Like when you can't smell things, that's signs of brain damage. But nobody talks about it because, frankly, people don't want to. It's not that people can't handle the truth, it's people don't want to be wrong. And if you say that you have brain damage, other can just say, you have brain damage, you're wrong. And people hate that, right? But that's besides the point. So what I'm trying to say is that government doesn't create value, it redistributes it, right? Well, so what if so let's say if the economy was how it was in 2019 before the whole COVID-19 thing, it's good. They discovered it. Well, they they made AI widely available, and they pay people properly, right? And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about like with all the benefits and time off and everything, right? It would be expensive, right? But given our lives in 2025, many people don't have jobs, and a lot of people are struggling to get by. They're able to push the tech workers working on AI harder, and while yes, they may make more money, so like someone might be making $300,000 or more. No, yeah, $300,000 per year or more. The thing is, they probably would have been making half a million or more in the olden days, but what they have done is that they essentially put the economy on pause. And if the economy is on pause, then they can push lower wages, relatively speaking, because, well, technically you're making thousands of times or thousands of times more money than other people who don't have a job, right? So on paper, you're rich as a tech AI worker, right? And and then of course they're also pushing 996, right? 996 means that instead of working 40-hour work weeks, you're working 9 hours, 9 to 9. So that's 12 hours. So 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. It's a concept in China. Now, what they don't talk about 996 is that they're not telling you the whole truth. It's like, the saying, the customer is always right. The whole quote is actually, the customer is always right in matters of taste. Well, when it comes to 996, they're not talking about the other thing that goes with 996 in China, which is when you talk about 996 in China, they often mention this thing called 内卷. Now, 内卷 means to curl inward, and in English, it would be called the rat race. Now, why do we call it to curl inward? I actually got a stack of paper to show you. So, imagine you're rolling a piece of paper, right? You can always twist it just a little bit tighter, can't you? It's getting harder to twist as you twist tighter, but it's getting tighter, right? It's to curl inward. And another word for that, so it's the rat race. Juice is not worth the squeeze as it becomes tighter and tighter, right? Become more saturated. So that's the thing. They don't talk to you about it. They only say, yeah, the Chinese work 996, but they don't tell you the full picture. So, yeah, they have put the economy on hold. So, relatively speaking, AI workers are doing better than ever, but they're not. All they did was they moved resources from one to another. They're trimming the trees so there are more resources for the key holders, right? So yeah, I guess the central point of all this that I'm exploring is that so what's in common between the Third Amendment and 996? The more I thought about it, it's essentially they're using technology as well as manipulation of either the law or economic situations to circumvent pretty much other laws or rights or whatever, right? So, so yeah, that's my thought for Tuesday. Hmm, I don't know. Tuesdays is always rough because I stay up late at Coldtowne and I get tired. But so this is actually really early in the morning for me. But yeah, do I have an answer for this? I guess being aware is the first step. Do know that there was a different plan, or it was promised for this country, yet what we're getting right now is different than what was on the menu. And and that's the thing, right? I don't know if I have autism, but suppose if I do. It seems that the system only likes it when I'm hyperfixated on things. It's like the nails must go in squarely and things like that, or the code has to look beautiful or things like that. But the system doesn't like it when this whole ability to recognize patterns and make sure that everything is the same is applied to how people are treated differently because of circumvention of laws or hypocrisies within policies, right? So yeah. Anyways, have a great Tuesday. Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next week.